Hi, and welcome to another episode of Suave podcast with Divyaa Advaani. Today on my show, I have a dynamic lady. She is an accomplishment in herself, I would say. There's so much to her profile, and I was really honored when I got talking to her and I got to know a little about her. But I didn't want to reveal everything at that point of time. So I thought, why not invite her to the show so that she can also tell us about all that she has gone through and all the things that she has faced in her journey. So why don't we listen from the woman of the hour, Pooja Marwah. Hi Pooja, welcome to my show and it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Hi Divya, thank you so much for having me. We had a great chattering session last week, and I'm really excited to be here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Pooja. Firstly, thank you so much for your time. I know you have been so busy in so many things. You're a content creator, you are an author, you're a storyteller, you're a public speaker, and the list goes on and on. So, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? How and why? In the first place, why did you start what you're doing today?
Okay, so the thing is that, I've always written, okay, but I never really gave structure to my content. If like the kids, both my daughters, I have two girls, and the one thing they do is they always compare me to someone like a Rachel, because they said you're the most disorganized person that we have in our lives. You are supposed to be the mom, but nothing in you is like organized or structured. And I am like that. I'm a very impulsive human, and I love that part because I feel there's something about spontaneity. So that is exactly what happened when I started writing. I used to be writing blogs, articles, things like that. And one fine day, one of my friends, she was working for the Big Five PR in India, and she reached out and she says, "Hey, listen, help, SOS." It was like an SOS call. Can you do this article for us? And it's for so and so. And I almost jumped out of my seat because I was a Fortune 500 head. And I said, what do you want me to write for him? And she says, you know how to write. I can't understand the brief. Get on a call. This is our client call. And literally, I had 25 minutes to prepare. I said, give me something. But I did that call. And I don't know from where everything came in, but it was just that the call happened and I wrote the blog, and in one edit, it was approved. And that's it. That started my writing journey professionally. When I wrote my book, it was just before Corona. So the book happened and then Corona hit. So then I started writing more books. In fact, those two books are still with Westland right now, and they will be out maybe next year. So the author
Awesome.
part of my journey is thanks, is one part. And LinkedIn started for me again by chance because one of these guys that the big, Fortune 500s that I was writing blogs and articles, also a TED speech for, reached out and said, why don't you do LinkedIn for me? And I said, I don't know how to do LinkedIn. So he says, doesn't matter, but I like the way you write and I like the way you project it. So I'd like you to position me and do a research, do a deep dive, come back to me. And that somewhere gave me that confidence of, this is what leadership is. They push you to bring out the best in you. I didn't know I had it till I got this chance and I kind of stood up to occasion. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's how LinkedIn also started for me. And that was 2 years ago. And I haven't looked back, Divya. I just haven't looked back.
That's so great. I mean, I'm so excited for your book, then your journey of how you started with content creation, how you got into
Thanks.
LinkedIn, how you've been doing. But what was that one thing that, when you were doing these things, I know things were not so planned for you, they just happened to you. But what was that feeling you had, when somebody approached you and they were like, hey, Pooja, just do this. What was the first feeling you had? Were you scared? Were you excited? Were you overwhelmed? What was it that you were going through?
So honestly, I didn't have time. I had 25 minutes to get on this call with Mr. CEO India, Southeast Asia. And I was like, okay, what am I going to talk about? You don't want to feel like a fool. I mean, he's obviously heading one of the largest conglomerates of the world in India. And you're like, okay, I can talk. I know how to talk. I know how to put my point across, but I need to know what I'm talking about. And this was an article about, machinery. And honestly, for the life of me, I don't understand it. But Silk Yara had happened around that time. And I remember reading a lot about it. And I said, you know what, stop, go back, read a little bit, talk about their particular equipment. That's what he wants out. And then get on that call. And somewhere that just worked. And I think what stood in my favor was the fact that I read a lot. I like to say I'm very well read and I love reading and knowing about more. Like you tell me something and if I don't understand it, I'll go back and learn. Uh, Hell, I'm 46 and I'm still learning every single day. I spend 1 hour of my day just learning something new. And I love that because it gives me an insight into where are we headed, so that's exciting. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think the learning journey never really stops. And a person who thinks, who knows everything is
Yeah.
actually somebody who can never grow. I mean, sorry, apologies to those who think like that, but that's the
Yeah.
fact. But but that's so great, Pooja. And I can totally imagine, coming in front of a CEO, South Asia, and, being like completely awestruck and confused at the same time, and maybe with some more confidence. Okay, this is a CEO, I need to be here. If I'm here, I don't know where I'll be, but I have to be here. All those thoughts
Yeah.
that go on within your head. So what was that one thing that, probably at that point of time, I'm not sure if you were, scared a bit, or however it was, you were like, okay, it came your way, you will talk it out and you will do things. But was there any point where you felt like a little bit scared, you like that bit scared, and you were like, what if this doesn't go well? What then? Did something like that happen with you?
Honestly, Divya, no, because I had nothing to lose. I really had this just fell into my lap and it was an opportunity. And I've always been one to grab it. I mean, I'm one for all these typical motivational quotes. So I was like, hey, opportunity comes knocking, pick it up and go and see where it takes you. It may work, it may not. But the fact is that at least I tried. And I knew I could convince him that I could write for
Mhm.
him. What I didn't know was how technical it would be. So I said, but I will never know that till I get on that call. So let's just do it and see. And what happens is that we have this entire vision of, oh my God, how am I going to sit in front of them and talk? Like today, Divya, I am writing for one of India's highest offices. And it's amazing because in my life, I never dreamt that I would be sitting across the table from, them sitting and writing speeches that literally people in the entire country and also parts of the world are hearing. And it's a big, big deal. I mean, I'm not at discretion or I can't name the person, but the fact is it is our third and fourth highest office. It's an amazing feeling, and that for me, that is humbling because that for me is when I'm scared as to I can't afford to make a mistake. There is zero room for error. Nothing in your speech, nothing in your personal branding of that particular person can go wrong. It has to be correct to the T. So yes, if I am scared, this is the point where I'm scared. Otherwise, I fear nothing. Honestly, in life, I've grown up pretty fearless. So.
That's amazing. So, Pooja, would you like to tell our viewers, what do you do when you are scared in situations like these, like you mentioned? What is that one thing you have always believed and followed, that whenever you get scared, this is what you should be doing?
Okay, so your viewers are going to laugh because when I'm really scared, all I want is butterscotch cornetto ice cream because it just needs to calm me down for a second. Like, okay, fine, you've got this, you can do this. And we all get nervous. You're going to go give a big pitch, even if it's online. Most of my work is all online, but even online, if I'm getting on a call I work with a lot of leaders, I work with politicians across the world. So obviously, they know their act. It's not something that I'm going to add, but I know my job. So to get on that call to give them a pitch of what I'm doing and how it's going to help them and how is it that we work together, that part is a little unnerving for me. And yes, the extra kilos that I put on is thanks to the butterscotch ice cream because I really need to have it because it needs to calm me down before I get on that call. But otherwise, not one to fear because I feel that if you do good research, if you are well read and you know what you're talking about, example, if I'm on a call with you, and I've read a little bit about you, it makes it much easier, right? To be on this conversation. We've had a chat before. You know me, I know you. We've done a deep dive. Even if it's on the surface, even if it's really deep, doesn't matter. But the fact is that we've read a little bit. And then you just add on from there. You iterate from where you are. So that's something that really helps me.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you on that. There are so many people who feel that, no, we'll see whatever happens. We'll get on the spot and
Yeah.
we'll see, we'll handle it. But I think doing a research is so very important, like you rightly suggested. But Pooja, tell me another thing. You mentioned about working with a lot of politicians. How did that happen to you? Like, people always, they start finding opportunities. They try to find out places where they can get connected with such people, or people, in maybe not politicians, but somebody wants to have their own niche clients, like, maybe have business owners, have corporates, or whatever it is. So how did the politician bit happen to you, and why did you really want to deal with politicians in the first place, or that also just happened to you?
So I'm not going to comment on the second part of that statement, but
Sure.
I will comment on the first because I am working with them. So I live in Dehradun and I used to blog for the local paper. And my blogs were primarily about my own inferences on life. No gyan, nobody wants to read gyan. So I used to take a twist, like for example, success and failure, and just write something which happened to me or the way I look at it. So kind of an opinionated piece, but I used to put it out as a blog in the local paper once a week. And one of those blogs, of course, the paper goes to every office, right? So one of those blogs reached an office and I got a call and I almost jumped out of my skin because when they say, yahan se phone aaya, it's like, oh my God, why? What have I done? And my entire house was in a tizzy that, Mom, what have you done now? Like it's always like that. Like, Mom, what have you done? And I said, nothing. I swear I've done nothing. But yes, that day I was really scared when I was driving because I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Why are they calling me? Why me? But when I went in and I was sitting in front of the gentleman, Divya, it's an amazing feeling because we never know. In fact, I wrote a post on this yesterday on LinkedIn, which I'll just share with the viewers as well. We don't know the impact that we are making by just being ourselves. And I always say that where in a world where everything is so copy paste, everything is X is doing it, so let me do it. Y is doing it, so let me do it better. I feel that if you stand out and just stand your ground, everything falls in place because you are the only person that can be you, right? I mean, there is a reason why our fingerprints are unique to us. So if I can only be me, then why am I not best at being me? And why am I trying to ape an XYZ creator who is doing something similar to me? And that I think is what worked in my favor is writing what I wanted to, not something that the newspaper wanted or that the family was okay with. I gave my own twist to generic conversations. Even when Corona happened, I was writing through and through. And it's not easy to write, because you're going through so much personally, emotionally, especially during Corona. But I said, this is my way of kind of expressing myself. I didn't even know at that point that maybe 8, 10 months down the line, I would be sitting in front of one of our highest offices with a proposal to say, can you write for me and can you manage my personal brand? And again, when I was driving back home that day, yes, I did stop and I did have my ice cream to celebrate because that's something I love doing. That's a little treat that I give myself when I'm really scared and when I'm really happy. So for me, that was very, very important to leave things to chance, and when opportunity comes, to understand and go grab it. I could have sat back and said nahi, aaj nahi, kal this that, but I don't. I am one that says, okay, if something's knocking, explore. Even if it's not something that you want to do, at least go have that initial meeting. You never know where it takes you. And that is something I would even urge the young adults of today, not even young adults, I mean everybody, men, women, whichever genders people go by. Networking, when they say is everything, trust me, it is, because it opens doors that you never knew existed. And that is what happened to me. Like, somebody asked me to write for a paper just to oblige. I wrote, I started enjoying it. That became a habit. How that habit transformed into, writing for a politician. And then one referred me to another, and that's how it started for me. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, it's a journey in itself. Were there I'm so overwhelmed right now. I am falling short of words and I'm like, okay, what do I say next? You're like and you're like a power packed person in yourself. But you mentioned this very nice thing. You mentioned about celebrating even the smaller wins, even if it's that one ice cream you have to celebrate it with. How important do you think is that? And why should one do that?
It's very important. I'll tell you for two reasons. One, it's something that we learned in school, simple interest, compound interest, right? Anything that you do daily compounds over time, right? So, like when I'm on LinkedIn, for example, initially, yes, I used to get one like a post, maybe two, no leads, nothing. Today, I'm sitting here 2 years later. I don't care about the likes and comments, but my inbox is buzzing with, hey, we'd like to work with you. Can we get on a call? So for me, that is compounded. And how did that happen? Because of those small daily steps that I took every day. There are some days that you will move mountains. There are some days that getting up from the couch and going to, have a shower is going to be like the task of the year. Having said that, doing both are equally important because it's those, I mean, showing up is also a daily act. And when you show up every day, I always say that the universe falls in love with a stubborn heart. How much can it pull you down? How much can it let you down if you're always showing up? It is going to work, but you need to be there for you to accept it, right? If when it gives everything out to you and you're not there to take it, it'll go to the second person. But if you show up every day, it's very, very important. So coming back to wins, it is important to celebrate it, because when you look back, when you get that large win, you will realize that it was those multiple small wins that led you here.
Absolutely. And I loved what you said. And truly, consistency is the key. I also
Yeah, it
want,
is.
I think I forgot to mention this earlier, but you mentioned about being yourself even while writing those articles. So I think your authenticity is what played the most role out here, and people connected with you because you were your true self. So that's absolutely amazing. And Pooja, there's another thing that I have been really awestruck by you. I have seen that you have been featured in India Today, in Times of India, ANI, Josh Talks, Femina, and I'm sure the list goes on and on and on. Can you tell us a little about that?
So yes, India Today, they had this article coming out on 8 women that were kind of changing the content landscape of India, right? So I kind of featured in one of them, followed suit. Femina happened 2 years later because I won an award at Times, and they felicitated me. It was in Dehradun, and I got an award for excellence in content strategy. So up until then, I guess people just took content to be YouTube video, Instagram reels, things like that. But everybody used to say, hey, you should be like into lifestyle and fashion and this and that. I said, yeah, but then that's not me. I mean, it needs to come from within, right? So yes, it takes time to find what is that one thing that you, and I feel that how do you find that? I'm not one for niche and box, Divya, because I feel that you don't need to put yourself in a little box, because creativity cannot be boxed. But if there is something that I'm really passionate about and want to talk about, because I can go nonstop about it, it is content and how to monetize that content. And that is where, when people, like, I started my journey on Instagram, and people reached out on their own, seeing it that, hey, you've done this, how can you teach me how to do it? Now, yesterday I wrote something on LinkedIn about this, that this gentleman reached out to me on Instagram, booked a call through Topmate, got in touch with me, and he said that first, when I saw him, I had tears, because he was literally like from a thatched hut. And he was from a small village in Chhattisgarh. He couldn't speak in English, but he said, can you talk in Hindi? I said, yeah, sure. So, while in conversation, all he said to me is that I want to make a difference in my life. You've seen where I'm living. His mom was in the back, thin cotton sari, no light, nothing. He had plugged into one kind of resource to use his mobile phone to talk to me. And all he wanted to do was to understand how to write content that he can monetize. So I said, why are you going for English? If you are comfortable in Hindi, talk in Hindi, no? You talk in Hindi about something that is exclusive to you and your village and your surrounding. And that is how it starts. And today, when I look back and I see his reels and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, see where he's reached from this one shy boy. And you don't know that kind of impact that you bring about in people. But the idea is to put yourself out there, because till you don't put yourself out there, you don't know who is seeing or who is learning from you. So how do you find that niche? How do you find that area for yourself? Is by experimenting. Figure out what is it that you can go non-stop talking about, that you want to do it without aping someone else. Because I cannot stress enough on authenticity, because that is something that is your USP, so to speak, right? Why are people following me? Not because I am Divya, or not because I'm doing personal branding like Divya does. People follow me for the way I do it. People follow Divya for the way she does it. All of us have our own, have something different that we bring to the table. The basic area may be the same. The basic industry, I mean, we're all in marketing. How are we marketing it, or how are we marketing ourselves? That is where the difference is.
That's so rightly put, and I really, I mean, it was heart touching when you told me about that boy not having even
Yeah.
electricity in his house. I can totally imagine, there are so many people out there like him, and somewhere it was even us before, I feel, even before we decided our entrepreneurial journeys to, start with something. So this show is basically all about that, how you inspire the other people where, who think that things are not possible. But like this small little thing you mentioned, he came and he started talking to you, and a simple thing he asked you, can we talk in Hindi? So how
Yeah.
important do you think is, one, like our viewers out there who are watching and who have a dream of starting their entrepreneurial journeys and thinking that maybe that, no, it's not for us, it's only for the privileged ones. So what would be that one message you would like to give them, just like you told this boy out here?
So one message that I want to give is that you need to start. Yes, it is going to be unnerving. I've given a lot of talks, at IIT, IIMs, I mean, various places in and around even Dehradun. And the one thing that I always say is that put yourself out there and start. Because till you don't start, how do you iterate a journey if you don't start, right? If we don't know one, how do we do one plus one is two? We have to do that first step, right? Some people are not comfortable with video, which is absolutely fine. Use text, use carousels, use infographics, use anything, any form of communication. Excuse me. But the idea is to talk about or to put yourself out there to share, because somebody out there could learn from you, even if you're not doing it. If you're doing it for entertainment, see, basically, content has three structured pillars, which is you either inform, you entertain, or you educate, right? Ideally, you would mix all three up. I mix all three up because I do a mix of all three. And everybody likes instead of humor, sometimes, you just share a little sneak peek into your personal life because you're building something that you want. It's a one-on-one connect, right? That is what you're trying to build. Personal branding is not a want anymore, but it's a need. And it's not a need for you and me, it's a need for literally anybody. Why? Because we're in a digitalized world, right? So if you're not in the digital space, how do people know that you're there? How do people trust you to buy from you or to look at you or to follow you? Take, for example, Nancy, who went up to to the Cannes Film Festival. She started with just one dream, that I want to make clothes. You can do anything that you want, but where it takes you, you have no idea. So instead of thinking, I mean, we spoke about goals, and I remember saying that I don't like to give myself that I want to reach this goal, because the minute you reach it, you'll have another, and then it's endless. So for me, the journey is, my goal is, hey, I got up to wake up. I mean, I got to wake up today. This is what I'm going to do today, and that's it. Yes, I tune off at, say, 5:36 in the evening. I take off, I go to the gym, I do whatever. But I feel that this entire balance of work and life needs to come. And it's not a balance, it needs to be life, actually. Work needs to fit in around life. But we do it the other way, especially for us in India. And we always say that either you're too young to start or you're too old to start. So the one takeaway I would give is, we have this line that we say, and I think every single Indian can relate to it, which is "log kya kahenge." And
Yeah.
"log kya kahenge," I think this line has killed more dreams than anything else in this entire world, because we are so hung up on "log kya kahenge," ये क्या सोचेगा, वो क्या बोलेगा, ऐसे कपड़े मत पहनो, बाल को लंबे I mean, we're just so caught up in this entire rigmarole of society. But tell me, when does society come to us? It never stands up when we need it to, right? So do it for you and do it for yourself, because if you don't have this delusional amount of faith in you, trust me, nobody else can, because you're the only one that can have it. So yeah.
Absolutely. I loved what you said. Log kya kahenge is literally a big thing out here. But there's
Yeah.
another thing you mentioned about our life revolving around work rather than it being the other way around. So, what would you want to tell people who are just starting up? Maybe they might be working in a 9 to 5 job, or even if not that, and they just want to start with their entrepreneurial journeys. At times, we've all heard that when we get into a business, you have to put your heart and soul in it, work 24/7 for it. So, people go crazy behind that thought and they just keep running and running and running, not knowing where it is going. Though people will have goals, some may have goals, some may not have goals, but they are running and constantly keeping themselves up and about. So, what would be your message for people like those? Though you mentioned that, there's a balance which is very much required, but for those who are starting out, what about those people? What would you want to tell them?
The hustle is there and the hustle is real. This is a fact. And anybody who says it otherwise are all people that have made it. Okay, so let's get that part straight. Having said that, when I started 2 years ago, say on LinkedIn, when I started my LinkedIn journey, yes, there were days that I just wanted to cry. But then I realized that, you know what, I'm getting overwhelmed by this entire entrepreneurship is not easy, and it's not for the faint at heart. I always say that it's not for somebody who just wants it all laid out. And there are people, I know people that work with me and people that come to me for coaching that are already in 9 to 5s, and then they come back home and they do it. And I always say, let's do this on the weekend. So take some time out. Because if you don't, you're going to burn out faster than you can imagine. So my advice to them is that do it. The hustle will happen. But the fact is, it cannot come at the cost of your health and at the cost of your family and loved ones. Because 10 years down the line, when you have made it, The only people that are going to have missed you and your time are your family and your kids. And that is something that you'll never get back. You could have everything else, but you never know. Life is short. I always say I've lost friends that are very young, um, and that's how it hits me to say that take it as it comes. Yes, it's important, the hustle is there, but there has to be a time when that hustle stops. So you don't have to do it 24/7. Maybe you can do an 18/6. That's what I'm saying. That little balance you have to give. Initially will be tough, but it all falls into place.
Amazingly put. That's so well put, rather, I mean, everybody is so crazy, just wanting to run behind money,
Yeah.
build a brand for themselves, whatever they are doing. It becomes really overwhelming at times. But there's another thing, Pooja, when you mentioned about starting your LinkedIn journey, you mentioned about how that also just came into your lap and you just took it up and you just started off from there. So what was the do you in the first place remember what is the very first content that you created ever in your life? Maybe
Oh my God,
LinkedIn
no,
or
I'm not even going to talk about it. No way. I remember seeing it over the weekend because I was just kind of deleting stuff that I didn't need. And I said, hey, let me go back and see my first post. And I was like, oh my God, that is cringeworthy. But having said that, that cringeworthy post is what's got me here. And I haven't deleted it, by the way. But it was just a post about me starting on LinkedIn, being absolutely scared and clueless. But the way it was written, I sound like I was 6. But the fact is that I wrote it then, no regrets. Like, today, if I even read my first book that I had written, which was in 2018, a part of me just wants to be like, oh God, can I just disappear underground? But then, you know what? I've evolved, obviously, as a human, as a writer. At the time I wrote that book, I had a different kind of emotion behind it. I had different feelings. So you have to give respect to that. As we grow, obviously, everything is going to change. So, yes, when LinkedIn happened was because this gentleman wanted me to write for him on LinkedIn. So, did this crazy 3 4 day trip to Bosnia. I know everybody says, "Oh my God, Bosnia!" And again, one of my younger daughter turned around and said, "You know what? World War II started there. Please do not go and start World War III." So yes, my reputation precedes me because I am known in my family to be this absolutely crazy, impulsive, spontaneous person who can do anything. But I loved it, and that changed my life around. I mean, I guess when you go to meet people, you step outside your comfort zone. It was the first time I had traveled alone for business. And for me, that was like oh my God, I'm actually doing this moment. It was something that really put a lot into perspective. I was scared, of course, because, you don't know a person there. And every place we travel in the world, we meet Indians, right? We see Indian people as tourists. This was one place, the first place in my life which I went to where I saw not one Indian. And I was like, what is happening? Where are the Indians? Indians are everywhere. Not one Indian restaurant, forget the restaurant, not even one soul as a tourist there. So for me, it was life altering for me. I learned a hell of a lot. And when I came back literally armed with, I know what I need to do. And then, yes, I worked hours and I did everything to get where I am. But it takes effort, it takes strategy more than effort, and it takes a lot of conviction. So if you have that, I think there's nothing in the world that can stop you.
Amazing. This actually brings two questions to my mind. So
Yeah.
first one would be for all the content creators out there, who are striving to start their own content creation journey. What is the one thing that you would like to tell them? Because there are so many times people don't know what to write about. And what happens is they start writing about their own life experience. Something happened today and they didn't feel good about it. They made a very emotional post or a very anguished post or, things like that. Their emotions start controlling them and they start putting that out in post. Secondly, if they are completely happy, then they'll see all the flowery things around them. They'll start making posts on that. So that's one question. The second question I want to ask you, like you mentioned about you traveling, and that was you were quite scared because you didn't know anyone out there. So how much did travel help you to evolve and become what you are today? And how important do you think is travel for people who, are just starting out, and even if they are going out, who even travel bloggers for that matter, even they write things, so they would also, somebody who's just starting out, they would be so scared at times maybe that, okay, what now? If I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
What if this happens? What if that happens? So what would you like
Yeah.
to tell them?
Okay, to answer your first question on content creators, that would be, this is a question a lot of people come to me for also, that we want to start our content creation journey, but we don't know what to write about. So we do this little strategy call where, sometimes I also needed a coach when I started, when I was kind of growing. You need someone to kind of give structure to your madness. And that is where I feel it helps, because obviously this is not a Dear Diary, whether it's an Instagram or it's a LinkedIn or it's a YouTube. You don't want to just get out there and just vent about random stuff, right? There needs to be some sort of strategy and structure. How do you get that? By figuring out, say, maybe three core things that you want to talk about. It could be health, it could be equipments in health, and it could be diet related to health. They need to be related, so your core topic needs to be one. So for example, I am one of India's business creators, right? So in business, what am I talking about? Content. In content, what am I talking about? Primarily LinkedIn. In LinkedIn, what am I talking about? And then you divide and write your content basis what your audience is. My audience on LinkedIn versus my audience on Instagram are very varied. So to suit them, even the formats for both platforms are different. So to get to understand this, obviously there is a lot of reading, a lot of homework, a lot of research that goes in. This is where the time needs to be spent. He first figure out, write down on paper. Today, when we are giving an exam in school, for example, or college, we need to study, right? About what are we going to go and write about? So this is your study. This is your prep time. This is your time to kind of figure out what, how, when, how many times to post, which formats to use, what to write about, how many times a week to write about. Because when all that is in place and you have like a Word doc or a Google Doc to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is how I'm going to do it. This is my monthly plan for the next 3 months. It helps you kind of plan the next 3 months and shoot your videos or whatever it is that you're doing, and gives you a lot of structure. So that is something that helps, is what I have seen out of experience. As far as travel goes, it opens your world like nothing else. It did it to me, and I'm more than sure it can do it to anybody. Not just travel for work, but even travel otherwise, because simply because of different cultures, you learn a lot. Every little thing, even if you're going to buy coffee in a coffee shop, where in Bosnia and Sarajevo, I learned something about East meeting West, where, erstwhile when they were the same and now they've all divided and broken up, where is that line? What was the East? What is the West? You learn so much when you go. There is, you get content. Like I always say, the best pieces of content come from a life that is lived. So if you don't go out there and live life, the content that you're going to write is very templatized, generalized content. So live life a bit and then come back and write about it and see how much you can add. So that is where it helps.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's so enlightening. And I'm sure that people out there who are even watching this podcast would be very interested in knowing more and even traveling more now that you've said that. So I'm sure this is
Yes,
going to
yes.
be
Travel is a high for sure. It's a high.
I agree. I completely agree. I'm a travel enthusiast myself, and I can totally relate when you say that. But yes, for those out there who are watching this video and they're trying to understand and what they want to do with their lives and how they want to start their business, I think this is going to be an eye opener for them. Pooja, is there any last departing message that you would like to give our audiences out there?
Just one, go out there and live it up, because you get one life. There are only so many trips around the sun. Don't spend it sitting, staring at a screen, because that is all that you will do. Get out there, live life. When you live life, you realize that you have the best moments to talk about, right? We get so caught up in our daily, routine life, and, the things that the should be and the could be of life. I always say, get away from the should be, could be, and just step out and actually do it. And that's where the difference comes.
That's so beautifully put. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I'm totally so glad, I would say, that you are there on my show today. It was so nice to know you. The first time I spoke to you, and you were that, I would say, a girl next door kind of a lady, which it felt so nice, and it felt so comfortable the very first time I spoke to you. And I'm sure you're creating that impact in all the other lives also that you're touching out there. So thank you so much for being you and being the authentic self, being your authentic self. So thank you so much today for being here on my show. And to all those out there who wish to connect with Pooja, you can comment down below and you can, let us know, and we'll definitely set up a call with Pooja. And if you think you need guidance from her, she's a great mentor and she'll be able to help you in the best possible way. things have happened to her, she has known from her own experiences, and I'm sure she'll be able to train you much better, and you will not have to repeat the same things maybe that she had to. So she's going to be a great mentor for you for that matter. So if there's anything you want to know from Pooja, or is there anything that you would like to get more insights about, don't forget to put it in the comment section below. And I'll keep coming out with such great stories for each one of you and how you can all start your entrepreneurial journeys. And for those of you out there who are still scared, thinking whether or not entrepreneurship is the right fit for you, don't forget to follow this channel and subscribe to the videos out here to my channel. And also click on the notification bell icon out there so that you're notified every time that a new video is uploaded. I come out with many such inspiring stories just like Pooja, and it's very heart touching, and there are so many things you get to learn from this. So Pooja, once again, I would like to thank you so much for being here on my show today and removing the time for us and the audiences out there who will be watching this show and will be learning a lot more from this. Thank you once again. Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot, Divya. I have had the most amazing afternoon being in conversation with you. And yes, of
Likewise.
course, I'm right here to help anybody else that needs anything. Please feel free to reach out. And thank you so much. Really, really lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. And to all of you out there, until I see you next, keep smiling, keep shining.